there, I'm Sandy Allnock. Welcome to Ellen Hutson's Meet the Maker series. And I have been here for quite some time off and on this channel, coloring all the things. And I finally get to put my face on here. Kind of excited. So, hi, friends. Nice to meet you. I want to start off this video by talking a little bit about creativity, and then we'll do some creative work. And then I'm going to tell you what you can find over on the blog. So, hang with me till the end. First, I wanted to answer a question that I get quite often, lots of artists do, which is how do you deal with getting stuck creatively? And a lot of people will just say, oh, I go shopping, I go for a walk or whatever. And I find those answers to only be satisfactory during some types of stuck because there's a lot of different reasons why you get stuck. If I'm trying to create something that has an outdoor scene in it, then yes, going for a walk and immersing myself in a forest is going to surround me with the kinds of elements that I'm trying to put in the scene. And I might get some ideas and at least some vibes from the forest to bring back with me to the studio. If I'm trying to make a home decoration project, then yes, absolutely. Going shopping at Michael's or Joann's or whatever local craft store you have near you totally might work because you're going to submerge yourself in that atmosphere. You're going to see all kinds of things around you that you can get inspiration from. That's one kind of being stuck because you're just looking for a specific idea. But the second kind of being stuck is exhaustion. You've come home from a long day at work and you're tired, or the kids have been doing whatever and you had to go to soccer practice and you're just exhausted. And you might kind of want to create something, but you just can't bring yourself to make a thing because it's an exhausting feeling to think about sitting at that table or whatever kind of space that you work at. And yeah, you just don't want to do it. That's a great time to wait till morning or to take a nap or to go for a walk, not for the purpose of going out and getting that inspiration, but for clearing your mind because you're tired and you deserve a little bit of rest to bring back to your studio space. The third kind of creative block is one that most people don't deal with. They just lump them into the other categories and use it as an excuse to go take a walk or leave the studio. But it's one that I think requires a different solution. And that's when you just can't bring yourself to put the pencil or the brush or the marker on a piece of paper. You just stare at that big white space and you don't know what to do. Well, that's when I get out a sketchbook. And a sketchbook is less precious. It's not the good paper, it's not expensive stuff. And whatever the medium is that I want to work on, or if I don't even know what medium, I'll try a couple different things. And I just start making marks on the paper. Just random colors, random strokes, random anything. If you want to, you can draw something specific and just see what happens. But a lot of times it's just the act of making a motion that is going to get things started because your mojo is going to show up and it's going to be effective when it finds you right there with the pencil in your hand. When you're poised to put something on the paper and the creativity shows up, boy, is that a sweet spot because you might find in making those marks, you're going to discover a color combination that inspires you. You'll find a certain type of line that reminds you, oh, I had this other product that makes that kind of line and I want to go use that. Whatever that is going to start coming out if you just plow through and make something on the paper. Don't run away and hide from that because sometimes that's when you really need to dig in deep. So now I want to do some coloring with you, so let's get started on that. I'm using a couple of Colorado Craft Company stamps today, and these are from last year, but I love them because they've got a different amount of space to deal with. So if you're new to making scenes, the one on the left here has a very limited space. The one on the right has more room to work with a background. But I'm going to show you a really easy background that you can use. I've chosen some colors from the hex chart. There's a link to the hex chart over on Ellen's blog, as well as in the doobly-doo under this YouTube video if you're watching here and looking for links. So I've picked out my colors that I'll put on the screen here. There's also a picture of them over on Ellen's blog. And we're going to start by shading the circle of the snowman's head. And the snowman's head is basically a sphere, and the shadow on a sphere is going to be a C shape, like a moon along the left and bottom side if the light is coming from the upper right. And then I put a shadow also under the hat and a little bit under the carrot nose. And those two are bonus things. Like if you can find a little thing on any stamped image that you're coloring where you can add a unique shadow, then anybody who looks at it is going to think you know what you're doing, even if you don't know what you're doing, because they're going to be convinced by one detail. So here I'm using a lighter blue to blend out the darker blue. And then I'm going to use some 99% alcohol. You can also use 91% or colorless blender on a cotton ball, not soaky wet, but just damp. And that's going to help blend the colors, lighten them as they go into white, as well as create a little texture on the surface. So if your blending didn't go perfect, that's a great thing to add to smooch it out a little bit. And then I'll use the same browns for the rabbit and the hat while I wait for the snowman to dry, because I want to do more shading on that. If you're using colored pencils, by the way, over on my YouTube channel, I have some snowy coloring where you can get some ideas for good colors to use for the snow on the snowman. So I've got the hat and the rabbit blended, and the carrot nose is here ready to go, and the scarf, all of that while waiting for the snowman to dry. And then I went in with a desaturated color. Desaturated means it's a little grayer of a blue. And I'm leaving on the left-hand side a slight highlight on the outside of the snowman. That's bounced light. And while most people don't know what that is when they're looking at it, your eye just tells you. You're used to seeing that on a lot of things, and it tells your audience that you know what you're doing when you're coloring. So that's a great thing to add in there, as well as the shadow underneath of the hat and a little bit of the shadow under the carrot. Next, for the background. This is going to be really simple. I'm going to use a flood of a single color. And you can do the same thing if you're doing your background in colored pencil or watercolor or something. Do the first layer in a lighter blue, whatever kind of color your sky is going to be, and then switch to a darker color. In Copics, I'm using the same saturated blue that I used for the shadow on the snowman. And I just drew some tree trunks of various sizes and various spacing away from each other, and then a few branches off of them. It's a really simple way to use subtle colors that tell people there's a scene there, but you don't have to really know how to draw anything in order to make a scene like that, because you're using a tone on tone, which works great. I'm going to do this second card in the very same way, except for one factor on this stamp is that you're looking up as though you're a mouse on the ground looking up at the snowman. You're seeing the bottom of his nose. You're seeing the shape of the snowman almost as a triangle. If you kind of let your vision go up above the snowman, there's almost a triangle. And park in your brain where the top of the triangle might be on a stamp like this, because that's going to become important when we do the trees themselves. If you're doing this in watercolor or in colored pencil, again, you want to layer some of your colors as best you can. Depending on your skill level with watercolor, scenes can be really hard, and getting multiple colors in a snowman like this can be hard, but you can still use the shading. So putting the shadows on the left-hand side, and then I'm going to go in again with the 99% alcohol. If you're using watercolor with something like this, you might consider using a light blue first and dropping in some darker blue into the shadow color, or you could just do a second layer once the first layer is completely dry, depending on your skills with watercolors. For the trees, we want to do these in the same angles as that snowman. So remember I said there was a triangle with a point on top? All of these tree trunks, not the tree branches, but the trunks, should point in the same direction as that triangle. So wherever that top of that triangle would be is where you should make the tree trunks line up. So they all point upward. It's going to look then like you are in that mouse's perspective, from a very tiny mouse on the ground, looking upward at the snowman, looking upward at the trees. You can even make an entire card where you're just looking up at trees in the snow, which would be quite beautiful. So I'm gonna add some tiny branches. I'm just barely touching the paper with that. If you're using watercolor or pencil, then Pencil is going to be easier to put those tiny tree branches in and do that in a light tone on tone color, just like we did here. If you're using watercolor, just use a really light wash, but wait till that whole background is completely dry, and a small brush so you can get into some of those little branches. So now I've added some of the extra shadows on the snowman, and I'll finish up coloring the rabbit and the hat in the same colors as I had done before, just to keep that efficiency going and keep the card making rolling by not getting out more markers. I'm putting some shadow on the back side of the bunny. And then the hat doesn't need a lot of detail because it's so small way up there in the top. And of course then snow on it with the Uniball Signo pen. Always put some snow in front of everything. So you can put it in front of stamped lines, put it in front of your figures so it looks like it's snowing on all sides of them, not just behind them. And you can even add some snow to the branches like I just did. This stamp is facing a different direction, so I'm going to move the sun to the other side. Oh gosh, now what do? Well, you use the same C shape as we used in the last one. It's just flipped to the other side. And the circles, the spheres of the snowman are not completed, so you're in your mind imagining what that shape would be if it were actually full and round. You could even, if you have a bigger piece of paper, draw out the rest of that circle so you can create that C shape. But I'm just going to fake it. I'm going to put some darker shadows in the bottom corner here. And since I have more room to work with on this stamp, I actually want to add more contrast because I'm into contrast. I love me some good contrast. So I've added in more of the light blue first so I can bring that out toward the sunny side of the picture, and then went in with a much darker blue, which is going to give more contrast and more interest to the image. I'm always looking for a way to punch it up just a little extra bit, but it does mean you have to go back in and add some shadows that blend from that dark area into a lighter area. And I'm going to add some of those same darks in the pile of snow at the bottom, leaving just the top highlighted. But here's the secret. Here's this little cool trick. I redrew the ladder, but I offset both the verticals and the horizontals. Isn't that cool? It looks like it's leaning away from the snowman. So be sure to head over to the blog if you want to remember how to do that, because you can pin that picture to remind yourself of how to create a ladder that looks like it's hanging away from the subject of it. Remember that always, if you can find one thing that blows people's minds, even if it's just that little ladder, it's going to cover a whole series of other mistakes you may have made. Nobody will notice if they see that one thing that makes it look realistic. I hope you enjoyed that and that you might try it with some stamps that you have or pick up the ones that I used today. Because today and tomorrow only, there is a special sale. I'm going to let the blog tell you all about the details. It's only good for 2 days. So if you're watching this video and the dates don't match the dates that are on the screen right now, then you missed the sale. But keep an eye out. Ellen's always having sales on something, okay? There's also a coupon code for my classes that I teach, exclusively for Ellen Hutson friends. So make sure you check that out if you have been wanting to take a class of some kind and advance your art. I also included a bunch of previous videos that I have made because I've done a lot with Colorado Craft Company stamps. I love Anita Jerome, and I wanted to share a few of those with you. So they're over on Ellen's blog. Lots of information there, as well as on my blog. I've got another tutorial video for you. Yes, it's kind of a crazy day, but if you have never had too much of Sandy, today might be the day to indulge. All right, I will see you guys later. Make sure you check out all the links in the doobly-doo, and I will see you in the next time. All right, I'll see you later. Go check out the links in the doobly-doo and have a creative day. Bye-bye.